prohibiting the trafficking and straw purchasing of firearms. They'll also strengthen other law enforcement tools to assist those investigating these crimes. It's a common sense response to help in the fight against gun violence, and it'll help law enforcement. That's why law enforcement so strongly supports that bill. Yet, some are seeking to filibuster it. Let them go to law enforcement groups and say they're trying to block them and take away the tools they need to keep every one of us safe. Congress should be confronting the serious role the straw purchasing and gun trafficking play in supplying criminals with firearms for illegal purposes, not ducking the issue. Stand up and be counted. Stand up and be counted. Don't give speeches saying you're in favor of law enforcement, or we're going to take away tools law enforcement needs. Stand up and be counted. Stand up and be counted. If we can all agree that criminals and those adjudicated as mentally ill should not buy firearms, why should we not try to plug the loopholes in the law that allow them to buy guns without background checks? Stand up and be counted. It's a simple matter of common sense. And if we agree that the background check system is worthwhile, should we not try to inform its content and use so it can be more effective? What responsible gun owner objects to improving the background check system? Stand up and be counted. In our January hearing, I pointed out that Wayne LaPierre, the NRA, testified in 1999 in favor of mandatory criminal background checks for, as he put it, every sale at every gun show. He went on to emphasize NRA's support for closing loophole in the background check system by saying, in what has become an oft-quoted remark, no loopholes anywhere for anyone. Well, of course, it's common sense to close the gun show loophole. The Senate voted to do so in 1999. We should vote to do so again. This time we should get it enacted. And that's one of the ways in which the bipartisan proposals from Senators Manchin and Toomey would improve the law if we're able to stop this ill-conceived filibuster and get to the bill. Americans across this great country are looking to us for solutions and for action, not filibustering or sloganeering. Americans are saying, stand up and be counted. I opened our first hearing on these issues in January, asking senators on both sides of the aisle to join in the discussion as part of a collective effort to find solutions to help ensure that no family, no school, no community ever has to endure the kind of tragedy the families of Newtown and Aurora, Mill Creek, Tucson, Blacksburg, or Columbine had to suffer. And as emphasized throughout the committee process, the Second Amendment is secure. It's going to remain secure and protected. That's part of my oath of office as a senator. In two recent cases, the Supreme Court has confirmed that the Second Amendment, like the other aspects of our Bill of Rights, secures a fundamental individual right. Americans have the right to self-defense. They have the right to have guns in their homes to protect their families. No one's going to take away these rights or these guns. Second Amendment rights are the foundation on which our discussion rests. They're not at risk. But what is at risk? We cannot close our eyes to what is at risk. Lives are at risk when responsible people fail to stand up for laws that will keep the guns out of the hands of those who will use them to commit mass murder. So I ask my fellow senators, focus our discussion debate on these proposed statutory measures intended to better protect our children and all Americans. Ours is a free society, an open society. a wonderful society. We should be coming together as elected representatives of all the American people to consider how to become a safer and more secure society. And I would have hoped that all senators in both parties would join together in good faith to strengthen our law enforcement efforts against gun violence and to protect public safety. Let's focus on our responsibilities to the American people. We're the 100 people. There are only 100 senators. We're elected to represent more than 314 million Americans. That is an awesome responsibility. Let's stand up to that responsibility. We're accountable to those people. We're not accountable to special interest groups on either the right or the left. We're accountable to 314 million Americans. These special interest lobbies on either the left or the right should not dictate what we do. We do not need a lobby's permission to pass laws to fight crime and improve public safety. That's our responsibility. And I urge senators to be less concerned with special interest scorecards and more focused on fulfilling our oath to faithfully discharge the duties of our office as United States senators. I consider myself a responsible gun owner, but I'm also someone who cherishes all of our constitutional rights. As a senator who's sworn an oath to uphold those rights, but as a father and a grandfather, as a former prosecutor who has seen the results of gun violence firsthand, I've been working to build consensus around common sense solutions. I'm prepared to debate and vote on the measures before us. I challenge other senators. Do the same. Do the same. Stand up and be counted. Stand up and be counted. Filibuster says you're not willing to take a stand. You vote maybe. Stand up and be counted. Have the courage. Stand up and be counted. And then let us work together to make America safer. All Americans. Mr. President, I yield the floor to Jesse Atzo-Quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander.
We can and should do something about. We need to make sure that the mentally ill are getting the help they need, not guns. As I said, this is something that I believe all of us can agree on. In response to the tragedy at Virginia Tech in 2007, the United States Senate and the Congress unanimously passed a measure to bolster mental health reporting requirements on background checks. Some states, like mine, Texas, have received high marks for their compliance. But many states have essentially been non-compliant, and the Department of Justice has failed to adequately back up implementation of the law. So essentially the law that we passed in the wake of the Virginia Tech shooting to require reporting of people who are actually adjudicated mentally ill in their respective states is not working the way it should. Rather than just string along an ineffective program, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to fix it, and we should fix it. I want to say just a word, though, about symbolism versus solutions. I am not interested in Congress voting on a measure that would have no impact on the horrific violence we've seen in recent months. I am not interested in a symbolic gesture which would offer the families of the Sandy Hook shooting no real solutions that they seek. To a person, they told me they're not political. They don't come with an agenda. They're not asking us to pass a specific piece of legislation. They just want to know that their loved one did not die in vain and that something good can come out of this terrible tragedy. So I think dealing with this mental health reporting issue is a common ground we could come together on. But we also need to make sure that we're not just going to pass additional laws that will not be enforced. What possible solace could that be to these families for Congress just to pass additional laws that will never be enforced? Take, for example, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, the NICS system as it's called, which flags people who lie on their background check. The annual number of cases referred for prosecution fell sharply during the first 2 years of the current president's term of office. Indeed, there was a 58% drop in referrals and a 70% drop in prosecutions for people who lie on the background check. We can fix this. We can fix this. Let's make sure that guns aren't getting into the hands of people who we all agree should not have them. We could be doing this right now with broad bipartisan support. But let me just conclude with a couple of observations about where we find ourselves with an 11 o'clock vote on an underlying bill which remains controversial and which I think the majority leader and all of us know has very little chance, if any, of going anywhere. We heard yesterday that our colleagues from West Virginia and Ohio have come together on a bipartisan background check bill. I asked my staff as recently as on my way over here whether that had actually been released, the language, so we can actually read it and find out what's in it, and it has not. We have no commitment in front of the Senate by the majority leader that there will be a robust debate. We need to make sure that what we do is address the cause of this violence and to come up not with symbolic gestures that will have no impact or to pass other laws that will not be enforced, but to come together with real solutions. Rather than put on a show and pat ourselves on the back and call it a day, let's do something good to make sure we've done everything in our human capacity to prevent another Sandy Hook. This is what these families want. This is what they deserve. And this is what the American people deserve. Now, this calls the United States Senate to exercise its historic and essential role in bringing all sides together to try to come up with solutions. But if we can't do that here, if we can't do that now, when will we ever address this tragedy? The president has told some of these victims' families that this side of the aisle doesn't really care about their loss. That's not true. It's false. The president is wrong. All of us care about these families, and all of us should care about violence in our communities, and we should try to work together to find ways to address this, not in a symbolic sort of way, but in a real way that offers a solution and maybe just a little bit of progress on this issue that would allow these families to say, no, my loved one did not die in vain. Something good came out of this. We want to work together to find real solutions to this type of senseless, incomprehensible violence that's taken too many lives. And I hope we will. Mr. President, I yield the floor.